9.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street.
Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
We are among the top 10 most vulnerable islands, nation states in the world. These are my neighbors, my family, and friends. Without change, if we are lucky, we will become refugees. Without change, if we are unlucky, then we will be left to the mercy of future Hurricane Dorians. Today, we still have the chance to win the race against time and outrun the impact of climate change. Today, we can still do something.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. And as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for making GPS a part of your afternoon routine. I do truly appreciate you being here. So what you saw a moment ago was the introduction for a conference that has been taking place here in the Bahamas over the past several days. And this would be the first regional meeting of regional heads of government of the Caribbean, in preparation for COP27, which is I would guess, the largest summit that's going to be taking place in Egypt later this year as it relates to climate change. And as you know, our very own Prime Minister Philip Davis has been championing the cause of small island states like the Bahamas as it relates to this whole question of climate change, and calling on the superpowers and the big boys, whose nations, for the most part, are mostly responsible for this negative impact that we see causing climate change in the world, to do more than just talk about it, but to actually do something about it, because we are the ones, we small island states, that are being impacted the most. And so our Prime Minister has been championing this cause wherever he goes internationally, and was the brainchild behind bringing all of the leaders of the region together to try to unify themselves, come up with a collective voice, so that that collective voice could make a regional block presentation or argument at the next COP meeting, COP27, so that they would together have a stronger voice. You know, there's unity in numbers, there's strength in numbers. And so the idea is for the region's leaders to come together, agree on one voice as it relates to climate change, and then represent themselves as a bloc to the world. That was the thrust behind this conference that has been taking place here in New Providence. And that's going to be the subject, the topic of our show today. We have joining us is environmentalist Joe Darville, environmental activist Joe Darville, and C. Alan Johnson is going to join us a little later in the broadcast because, of course, a part of this conversation is going to be about carbon credits. But we're going to look at overall the thrust behind this regional conference and whether or not we believe that this is going to actually give the region a stronger voice, which will result in more action, or whether this was just a feel-good exercise that could potentially not yield the fruit that they are expecting it to yield. So, Joe, is Joe up? Bring him in. Welcome to GPS.
Pleasant good afternoon, Michelle, and pleasant good afternoon, Bahama Land. And I'm always excited to be on your show because it's definitely a show which gives enlightenment to the entire nation. And so I'm happy to be here this afternoon to assist you in actually elucidating some of the elements which must be incorporated in this whole movement towards climate change. I don't know if you have any specific questions, but if you don't mind me giving a little introduction as to how I envision this particular move by the government and specifically by the Prime Minister of the Bahamas.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But I want to lay the framework first before we dive into that, okay? So just to advise our audience what the conference was designed to do. And then we got a 2-hour show, Joe. So you're going to get the opportunity to share that information, okay?
All right, great.
So this meeting had 4 main themes: working to solidify regional goals in call of these spaces. So number 1, you're talking about prevention from getting worse, mitigation, keeping, making sure we don't go beyond the 1.5 degrees for global temperatures, because that would mean disaster, particularly for us smaller island states. We're talking things like renewable energy policies, international support to keep their commitments, that kind of thing. So that's what the mitigation aspect covered. Secondly, the conference dealt with adaptation, loss and damage. We know all too well in this country about that loss and damage. I mean, just look at the damage that Dorian unleashed upon the Bahamas, to the tune of billions of dollars. But quite frankly, we've been suffering from hurricane damages for years. So the second theme of the conference was adaptation, loss, and damage. We're going to talk more about that. And then you had cross-cutting, tourism, sustainability, etc. And finally, transparency, ensuring that there is a degree of transparency both on the part of local, or should I say national governments, as well as calling international bodies and governments to be transparent in their actions as well. So those were the 4 pillars of what this conference was supposed to be accomplishing. And one of the persons who addressed the conference during the opening ceremony was Dr. Donald Cooper, the director of Transparency UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. And in this clip, what he pretty much said was that he was pretty, I'm paraphrasing here, he was impressed with the leadership that is pushing towards doing more than just talking, but demanding action. Let's go to clip number 1.
We talk about and talk about and talk about. The difference that we have noted and the reason why there's such strong support from the Secretariat for this initiative is that the perspective has changed. Globally, we have moved from primarily negotiations to primarily implementation. But in order to implement, you must have a plan, you must have goals, you must know what you need, what will work. And the leaders from the Caribbean have identified the key issues from the national perspective that's important to them. Whether it's energy security or disaster management, hurricanes, whether it's water supply, tourism, they have identified that these are the things that will make the lives of our people better. And it is the direction that the global community must take to provide that response. I heard a question earlier today where it was asked, what influence can the leaders of small island developing states give to the global community? We are small countries, small economies, low emissions, and most of our impacts are to ensure that we survive. However, the world views it differently. They identified small island developing states as one of the two special groups that need particular action. And it is clear that you are now identifying what that action is. It is also clear that your ambition is not being limited by what has happened in the past. Because somebody gave you $10 when you asked before, doesn't mean you don't need 1,000 now. So don't limit your horizons. And this is the leadership that we have noted coming from the Caribbean region. So with this, I want to assure you of the support of the Secretariat in whatever direction you wish to go, and to compliment you on leaders leading. It is a powerful message globally, and one which we are sure will generate the results that you are looking for.
All right. So the question is whether or not that is what will be achieved as a result of this conference. He is pretty much saying, listen, ask for what you want. And he's congratulating the leaders that decided to come together as one to do exactly that. Joe, now is the time. Let's hear from you as to your thoughts of Prime Minister Davis spearheading this effort and causing this conference, this first conference to be, and whether or not you think this will actually bear fruit.
Well, it was a little bit difficult to hear the gentleman just now. The volume, I couldn't hear it clearly.
Yeah.
But that's the gist of it. I was able to pick it up. I'd like to begin to say that, I am proud of our Prime Minister. He has actually taken the bully pit, pulpit rather, and actually have been a very short period of time been able to garner the support of all the major Caribbean states. And the fact is that, we have a significant amount of leverage historically, because there's a tremendous amount of damage which has been done to our territories and the people therein for a very long time historically by the larger nations in the world. And not only that, but they have continued actually to destroy a lot of what we had naturally, as far as the environment was concerned, the ocean, the seagoing area, the airspace, and so on. And so we have a tremendous amount of leverage actually to be able to convince the entire world, the larger nation, the first world, second world nations. And I don't think we should be called a third world nation any longer, or territory. We have the status sufficiently unto ourselves to be able to call ourselves first-class nations, first-class citizens of a beautiful territory on planet Earth. But what I would like to say right up front, and that is that we have to have the population of the Bahamas buy into this, because we cannot go ahead on the pulpit and convince the world of anything unless the whole territorial population is significantly behind what the leaders are saying. Then let me go back to some 7 years ago when we had COP20. I was in France in Paris at that particular point in time. And I would say that there were hundreds and thousands of young people who were sufficiently, enlightened at that time to carry out incredible demonstrations at that particular COP20. And I don't see that happening within the territory of the Caribbean yet. I don't think our people are buying into it. And from 7 years ago, the individuals who were there representing the government, I have seen very little, actually nothing coming out of it. And now coming out of the recent COP last year, with the Prime Minister being so motivated, and of course the other heads of government in the Caribbean, I'm hoping that this can filter down to the people. We have to begin at the grassroots. They are absolutely ignorant about what climate change is doing to our island nations, and specifically to the Bahamas, which stands to be the greatest one that's going to be impacted by the most phenomenal results of climate change, sea level rise. And we have to even bargain with these particular nations to say, say by the end of the century, if we have no habitable land in our nation, we will become refugees. So where will our people go? Which countries in the first world, second world area will accommodate us? And this is why I'm always, kind of preaching to people that be here in the Bahamas. Be very careful how you treat people who are escaping the tragedies in their own countries and coming to the Bahamas. Not that we are able to accommodate all of that. We do not have the resources and the space and all of that to accommodate 500,000 tourists out of Haiti, or Cubans for that matter. But the fact is, it's the humane manner in which we can accommodate them to the time, up to the time that we're going to get them repatriated. But I have seen a more conciliatory approach to that area now in recent times, the way the authorities have been dealing with those people who are trying to escape the tragedies in their country, and specifically Haiti. And so all of these must come together, because we do not have sufficient land above sea level to accommodate our population. And even now, and I want to say this up front before, at my age, almost 81, I tend to forget certain things that I need to repeat over and over again. And I see my great friend there on already. And, he is one of the classic people in this country who should be consulted on so many areas of national development. But I always say to our people, apply for Crown land. And I'm saying this right now, if you're not getting an answer from the authorities that grant Crown land, then I would say, if you're interested in a piece of one of the family islands, especially any areas above sea level, about 25 feet, go and sit on it until you get an answer from government. And if you sit there long enough, you can actually qualify as squatters' rights. And I'm saying this without equivocation, and I don't care what they do to me at the Lands and Survey who deals with this. They have been impeccable. Over the many, many years, Bahamians have been summarily ignored when they applied for land, for farming, and etc. It takes them 25, 30 years, and they don't even hear a word, even though they go every year to check on it. Oh yeah, we'll get around to that, etc. So all of these things must be seen as a package. How are you going to educate our people at primary level? How are you going to teach them to accommodate themselves when the ocean flows in and they're not able to swim? What are you going to do about that? Who is going to go? And I had this conversation recently. I'm on the Board of Education now at the council. And I had this conversation, with my dear friend and former student, Glennis Hanna. And the fact is that we have to go into the schools. I want to see the Prime Minister going to every school in the Bahamas, or a delegation from him, going into the Bahamas and telling them about what we need to do survive. I even go to the point that, you know, we have to even set about building an ark. You know, Noah was no stupid guy. He saw what was happening. He saw the signs, and it was a sort of inspiration. Yeah, definitely. We all have the capacity to be inspired by the divine, but it was more than that. They went through these particular tragedies many times in the past. You know, these islands, especially ours, have been underwater for millions of years, and now they have arisen and they will go down again. And so we have to, at the very basic, but the thing is, before I forget it again, Michelle and my friend, C. Alan Johnson, you know, I was a little bit distressed at my prime minister that more ground-working environmentalists were not invited to those particular conferences, like Rashema Ingram, Casuarina McKinney, and people like those who, we live the environment. That's the guts and the core of our being now. And we're the ones who are teaching the people how to appreciate the mangroves, the ocean, the coral reefs, etc. So all of these things must be put together. We cannot just have a conference of heads of government down at Bahamas and then expect for the population to know what's going on. We have to get out there in the field. And I invite the powers that be to use us, use Joe Darville, use Rashema Ingram, use Casuarina McKinney, all of us who sweat daily to make sure that we have mangroves restoration, that we could care about our coral reefs, that we're teaching our young people how to swim, we're teaching them how to dive, to become scuba divers, so they can see exactly what is happening with our coral reefs. So I'm going to rest a little bit there and move on to probably C. Alan Johnson if you want.
Okay, so let's get C. Alan in on this conversation. C. Alan, welcome to the show. I don't know how much time, if any, you were able to dedicate to following what was happening at the conference. But if you were able to follow it at all, just give us your brief overview, and then we're going to get into the specifics.
I did follow it to some degree, but not intensively. I'm going to study it over the weekend.
Right.
But I understand the collaboration of the commonality of what you say, the common area of the Caribbean or smaller SIDS that we are trying to do. I don't know if the conference was more specifically just to have a conversation so the public could know. I don't know exactly what's happening in the background. But I know, what I mean by that is I know, like when you speak about the Bahamas, the enormity of the work that we have before us and the challenges of what we have ahead of us in regards to the continuation of global warming and climate change that is actually being accelerated since COP26 due to the war in Russia and the country Ukraine. China, other people are now, and other countries are now saying that they may have to go back to coal to deal with some of the issues. And so I don't know whether it's like we're going to scream with one voice, if there's been a collaboration as to the common needs of each of them, such as preserving land mass, water protection, water displacement, infrastructural building. I know I've been seeing our Prime Minister putting an emphasis on being compensated for past impacts. But I think while we're screaming to be compensated for past impacts, it is extremely important for us to build forward. And what I mean by that, we have, I know for those of us that's been in this game for 2 decades, Darville, I think, must have been at least 5 decades. So what happens is when we began the advocacy concerning carbon credits, as you speak about in the mangroves and the seagrass and various different things, and this goes back to early 2000 with me, with Bahama Rock, once I returned to the Bahamas. And I was screaming that we are destroying it, and I am some extreme environmentalist, and I saw us building the Cocoa Keys and other places. I've always been against that type of development because of the paradise environment and moving towards one of the most polluting industries in the world. In fact, for the record, a cruise ship burning carbon-based product, diesel, etc., emits in 24 hours more emission than 1 million cars. And so that gives you the enormity of their contribution just to the carbon dioxide, etc., not counting the impact on the water pollution, other pollutions that they carry. So I thought it was important for us, because going back in 2020, you can go back and you can hear a conversation back then where they said that the Bahamas would disappear in 50 years. And no, the year 2000, sorry, not 2020, the year 2000. They said that we'll disappear in 50 years. Here we are in 2022, and we're facing an even greater threat with sea rise and global warming. That deadline has now been accelerated, but the impact is even greater. And so very easily by 2050, 70% of the Bahamas could very well disappear. And so we talk about 700 islands and keys. We could very well be left with maybe a dozen, maybe 10, and just a minimal landmass to watch those. So what I'm saying about the Prime Minister looking forward, we have not, I know as far as I'm aware, done an assessment as the need analysis as to what it is we need to protect our country and sovereignty. And what I mean by sovereignty, as for those who may not understand international relations and the ocean monopoly, as islands disappear, the boundaries of the Bahamas automatically disappears also. Our territorial waters is 12 miles from the whatever landmass is at the edge. So our most northern point in the Bahamas, you go 12 miles from that. The most eastern point, you go 12 miles from that. The west, you go 12 miles, and from south, you go 12 miles. So imagine that Meguana, Inagua, or whatever disappears. Whatever island comes up, that's where you go 12 miles from. So you've just lost all of that border from 12 miles out from Inagua.
Wow.
Also from that also is that your exclusive economic zone, which is up to 200 miles out, is also lost. And I just want to give people a point in which strategic planning requires. Mm-hmm. So down in Meguana or Inagua right now, as part of our building strategy, should be building an outpost. International law says we can create an environment where if Meguana sinks and there is a landmass there, whether it's artificial or real, that an individual can live 6 months on, that would still be about our borders. So we have to look at protecting our borders. In fact, I would say I'm one to believe that considering the resources we have with the Aragonite and other different things, we should look at extending our borders, even if we become a sea nation. Because if we become a sea nation, because we can't stop global warming, we don't have a choice in whether we'll become a sea nation or not. And so and technology will exist in about 20 or 30 years. And I know we talk about becoming climate refugees. We will become climate refugees if we do nothing. But there are technologies exist now for water-bearing cities, et cetera, taking into consideration hurricanes, et cetera. This is an advanced conversation. But just to protect the integrity of the Bahamas and our very existence as a country, a conversation must be had that we must then now look to these polluting nations to not only pay us for past atrocities, but to actually help us build forward better. And
well, this is a part of this. I got to take a break. This is a part of what this conference was hoping to achieve, that the region would take all of those things into consideration, come up with one block, one voice as they go into COP27 to demand change from those, the larger, more industrialized nations that are contributing the most to this problem. Well, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty in a bit, but I have to take this commercial break. On the other side of the break, we're going to hear from our very own Prime Minister. He says enough is enough. And so we're going to listen to excerpts from his welcome remarks. And then we're going to hear quite a bit from our Attorney General, Ryan Pinder, as to the thrust behind this conference and what he believes will be the end result from the efforts that have been put forward here. So stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the other side of the break. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, tint, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with C. Alan Johnson. For some reason, Joe Darville's stream dropped, so hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us soon. We are talking about the recently held, or still being held, I think it ends today, conference here in the Bahamas of the leaders of the region coming together to formulate one voice as it relates to climate change so that they can take a collective message to COP27 to be held in Egypt later this year, which is the world's largest gathering of leaders as it relates to addressing the problem of climate change. Now,
Michelle, before you play a video, let me just clarify a point that I was making.
Mm-hmm.
We can go as a coalition, but we have to know what our needs are, so our needs don't be less than what the coalition is seeking, because ultimately we must preserve ourselves. So their needs may not be as extensive as ours, considering the previous impact. And the fact is that we are living in Hurricane Alley. Many of our islands, such as Grand Bahama, Abaco, and other places. And so our needs are greater. So essentially, we must set a benchmark for what it is we want, to make sure that collective benchmark is not less than ours.
I think that that was a part of the thrust to ensure that each member of the region has their concerns brought to the forefront and included in that block message. I believe that that was the whole purpose behind bringing all of the leaders together, so that all of their what is important to each state gets more weight, as opposed to that individual state trying to make representation. So in his opening remarks, and I'll take the clips from here. In his opening remarks, Prime Minister Davis pretty much sent a strong message to the larger industrialized nations that are known to be the ones that are greatly contributing to the problem, that, you know, enough is enough now, because you're not just talking something that is theoretically a change that is needed theoretically, but you're talking about the very survival of our people. And so here's a report on what the Prime Minister had to say at the opening. And just before I play the clip, I want to encourage those of you watching to like and share this show, because, you know, if we were talking about something about crime or immigration or whatever, everybody would be all, you know, hunky-dory, yeah, let's go, rah, rah, rah. But this perhaps is more important than any other issue facing our nation, because we're talking about the survival of us all. If these waters continue to rise at the rate they are rising because of increased temperatures, all us can be on boat looking to find some place to live. So whereas you would, you know, get all excited over something else, I want to encourage you to like and share the show. Listen attentively to what is being said on the show, because the implications are so grave for those of us in these low-lying states. So here now is a clip from the opening ceremony where Prime Minister Davis, who has been championing this cause internationally, is telling the big boys, enough is enough.
Prime Minister Philip Davis opening the conference this morning, and he says it's important for small island nations to band together to fight against a climate crisis that is slowly taking over the world.
Let us work together to advance the use of a multi-dimensional vulnerability index to reflect the true needs of small island developing states, and work to persuade donors and partners to ensure that all SIDS are eligible for access to bilateral climate financing.
Heads of state from some 24 countries will engage in dialogue to promote understanding and awareness of critical issues and concerns within the region, a springboard for their showing at COP27, which according to officials will foster greater climate resilience and finance flows.
A major contributor to debt is borrowing associated with recovery efforts from the impact of climate change. Here in the Bahamas, more than 50% of our outstanding debt can be linked to the impact of the hurricanes which descended on us between 2015 and 2019.
Less talk and more action is what Prime Minister Davis is seeking from countries who are mostly to blame for the climate crisis, after having made commitments to assist small island developing states, and even some 15 years later, those commitments have yet to materialize.
We are commitment fatigue, and we are pledge fatigue. So, of course, the pledge to make available $100 billion is yet to be realized.
Meantime, Director of Transparency for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Donald Cooper, congratulated regional leaders for playing their part in the fight against climate change, while pledging the support of the Secretariat.
They identified small island developing states as one of the two special groups that need particular action. And it is clear that you are now identifying what that action is.
Prime Minister Davis says he is hopeful that the conference can become an annual one with shared objectives and mutually accepted protocols. To those in attendance, he left this final admonition.
This is not to say that there aren't differences among us. With some issues, we can agree to disagree. With others, we can use this forum to find and build consensus before we engage with our colleagues around the world.
Well, the conference is expected to end on Thursday, and these heads of government are expected to reach a common goal and compile their findings in a paper that they hope to present at COP27 in Egypt later this year.
All right, so the Prime Minister mincing no words there. He also had some very strong views on, like he said, we have pledge fatigue now. We remember after Dorian, this, big hurrah over this pledge conference that the former administration held, and all these people were invited, and all this money was pledged. And I don't know if y'all know better than me, but I don't know if we collect the first dollar yet. So, it's one thing to be able to get people in a room and say, "Oh, yes, we're going to support you," but it's another thing. Is that a caller? It's another thing for us to move beyond just words and actually put some action behind those words. We actually have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good day and God bless you today, Michelle. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm blessed. Thank God for life. And afternoon, C. Allen. Is Joe Darville back on it yet?
Yes, he is.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Reason I'm calling, well, actually, I want to contribute to what you're talking about, but I want to make few quick comments. I applaud the Prime Minister as the leader of the Bahamas for taking the lead on this issue, but we're not hearing from his substantive Minister of the Environment, Vaughn Miller. Have any of you been hearing from him on these issues?
Not yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that by now Vaughn Miller should have already been going throughout this entire country talking to the Bahamian people about this issue. Man, he should not be as quiet as he is, and I can imagine he's only waiting for his marching orders. My assessment, but I'm a little perplexed at that the substantive minister having to do with the environment is not being heard anywhere in the country. Secondly, and I particularly would like to have Joe Darville's response to this, and this is JT calling in, Mr. Darville. One of the ironic things that I'm noticing in the country today as we are fighting against climate change and sea level rise, and this does not have anything to do with it directly, but it has to do with the mining, basically. I pray God and I hope that Philip Brave Davis, as leader of this country, never approves the digging up of Andros by any company, local or none. Here it is, we are talking about preserving our environment. We are talking about protecting our land from sea level rise. But if that initiative was to go ahead and the land is dug up, you're talking about more salt water inundating the freshwater lenses and messing up more of whatever Andros is beautifully known for and environmentally known for. So I just thought I would throw that little point in there because as a Bahamian, I cannot be quiet as a concerned citizen and knowingly see destruction being promoted and be quiet about it, So I pray God that the Prime Minister will definitely not approve that project over there that these big oligarchs around here seem to want to pursue. Now, that being said, Michelle, I'm concerned in regards to the sea level rise as a Bahamian myself, and I mean, I came across an article in The Guardian about 3 weeks ago, talking about a study that was done sometime this year, determines that the sea level rise in this region over the last year, they've noted it to be a lot faster from the melting of those ice caps than they had predicted. Now, what I haven't heard, and I can't, of course, literally see it, but can any of you give me, as a person without physical sight, a word picture as to how much sea level rise has already occurred and how much of the Bahamas' land mass that has already been lost to sea level rise?
I think Joe Darville would be the person to answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much. You've raised some very, very important, critical questions there. And this is why I'll go back a little bit. If Von Miller has not been incorporated significantly into this whole dialogue, I'm also wondering why. But let me say that it is not Von Miller who is the expert in these areas. You have environmentalists like in Save the Bays and Waterkeepers Bahamas, BNT, and elsewhere, we've been eating and watching this for years and years. Let me give you a specific example. 2 places in Grand Bahama. We do beach profile regularly under Waterkeepers Bahamas. There are 2 places in Grand Bahama which we've been measuring for the last 7 years. And in both areas, one area specifically, there has been erosion of 20 feet where a concession was built on the edge of the water. It was destroyed by one of the hurricanes 4 years ago. And then in another area where a coconut tree was literally almost 40 feet from the sea level, now that coconut tree, the roots are hanging down into the water in a specific area in Grand Bahama. So these are the people. I'm not saying Joe Darville, I mean, I got big enough mouth and I could say it to people all over the nation when people like Michelle invites us on and see Alan Johnson. But the fact is, we have environmentalists who've been watching this. We are the experts, not so much those people who were in that conference. Those are the people who can lead the country and convince the major nations what we need. But the fact is, we have in Grand Bahama alone, and I'm not talking about what happened during Dorian because that came in from the north. I'm talking about the south side of Grand Bahama. We have had up to 25 or 30 feet erosion over the last 7 years. And we in Waterkeepers Bahamas, under the direction of Rashima Ingram, who should have been part and parcel in that conference, and who should be chosen to go to COP27, because we eat and digest what we see happening. We had experts that came in from France. They contacted us because they knew what we were doing in measuring beach profile, the loss, etc. And they were there on the south side of Grand Bahama, and they're the ones, they did incredible measuring of everything scientifically. And they were the ones who said, and actually we've exceeded what they said. They said by the end of this century, we will lose more than 9 meters of beach erosion, so the ocean will come in up to that particular level. And so these are the things that we know. I bet a lot of those people in that conference, I'm not disputing their quality and all of that, but they have never been in the field. We live it on a daily basis, whether it's destruction of the mangroves and restoration that's needed, or whether it's the coral reefs that creates havoc in our minds with respect to what the cruise ships are doing to our coral reefs. And it's computed that the disease of the coral reefs emanated from cruise ships dumping in our waters and dumping off the coast of Florida. So what C. Alan Johnson has said, cruise ships are doing an immense amount of damage to our environment in the air and in the ocean. So you're absolutely right. So don't get the Minister of the Environment to go out there and preach to the children in the nation, but get people who've been living this and know it, got to measure. We measure the water. We know when we just, Shema Ingram and I just did 7 beaches in Nassau today, measuring the water, seeing what is in the water, the main beaches where people swim, because we don't want people to be swimming with this E. coli in the water. So get people who are in the field and get them to do the job out in teaching our nation what needs to be taught to them. Because unless we get the ground roots involved in this, we're not going any place. This is one country.
I support your sentiments, and the reason I brought up Von Miller a while ago is because in the context of the government's push, I think the substantive minister having to do with the environment should be involved, if not taking the lead. In that context,
I agree with that.
But what you said, I wanted to ask you in respect to you, the environmentalist on the ground, because quite frankly, you're right. You, the environmentalists, should be the ones who are around the table because, like you say, you live this thing every day. What I wanted to know from you, what sort of initiatives have the environmentalists taken in terms of bringing these issues more, and I emphasize more because I know you've been talking about it over the years. What have you done, say, within the past 5 years to bring it more to the attention of the Bahamian people, to let the schools know, to let the churches know, to let the corporate the credit unions, etc., civil society Bahamas know about the concerns that we as our people as a people are faced with? Have you done any large public initiatives lately with or without the involvement or support of government? And on that note,
Can I answer that?
Go ahead, Sia.
Yeah. It isn't what we have done, because these environmentalists has been at this for 5 decades. The individuals that are new to this is our current batch of MPs.
Amen.
So what I'm simply saying to you is this is, regardless of incremental, what is important now is that the world has come together. COP26 is one of the most important aspects of it, because for the 2 years of COVID, they were able to see some measurable results of the less industrialized activities of the world, where air improved around the world. They found species that they thought had disappeared and reappeared. Animals returned to the cities during the lockdown, etc. They were able to see in real time the impact of even no action. When he said no action, no increase in the carbon emissions. But what happens now is, though, the government of our government is talking about billions of dollars. And so, with all due respect, I call them 5-year celebrities. And so we must recognize that this essential threat that threatens the Bahamas is going to be beyond the term of this current administration. And long after they're gone, environmentalists such as who Joe Darville mentioned, and individuals such as myself and my children who I'm teaching about the environment, and my family is going to be involved with this, carrying the institutional knowledge that they had before and after. What is important now is for government to recognize the role NGOs and other environmentalists have been played, and also make available in this discussion resources to do the things that you speak of. Because the problem is government itself will not marshal a host of people to go there to plant mangroves, to restore seagrass, to educate the individuals, whatever. Because you're talking now about a massive increase in what government is trying to do, what individuals in this country has always been doing. So in essence, what we do need is access to funding. We need government to say nothing for us without us. And so they need to come to us and begin to ask, what are the resources? A point of inclusion. What is it that we need to continue what we're doing and expand upon it to make sure that we have a greater impact, whether it be through education, through creating vanguards of the environment. And so I appreciate your question, but I'm simply saying this to you. I would ask you and others to call your members of parliament and advocate that the environmentalists in this community must be included at the table, because we've been building this table, in fact, before they came, and they've done. I'm not looking at this as an attack, but when the current prime minister was Minister of Works advocating for certain type of developments that we said was going to be detrimental to us 10 years ago, our position hasn't changed. We welcome him now that he's now with the position that we have always had. And so we want him now not to exclude us, but have one of inclusion, because we have the institutional knowledge. If we bring all of these environmental groups together, the data collection capabilities of even putting vanguards in the environment and the international data, such as what they say, on average, you ask how much have disappeared. They would tell you in about the last 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 decades, we've lost 6 inches. Well, we can take you around this country and show you where feet and feet and feet has been disappeared, where the demographics, the geological aspect of the Bahamas have changed drastically. We can take you and show you where sea rise and global warming has affected coral reefs with bleaching and other things that have been dying. So we are simply saying the institutional knowledge that the government needs already lie in many of those of us who have been living this, as Joe Darville says, for decades, that understands and knows not only the problems, but many of the solutions, not only for myself, but through studies of applications across the world. So we're not saying, we just simply saying, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. What you need to do now is have a collective think tank to bring all of us together, because you go and hire a whole bunch of people now for the Ministry of the Environment or this so-called new carbon thing. They must now get up to speed, because many of them who most likely you will bring on as the vanguard has never even paid attention to the depletion of fish, the depletion of coral, to the effects of our cruise industries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we ask you, join us in advocating that environmentalists be included not just in the conversation, but in access to the resources, considering financial resources, to begin to move, to take action, to basically mitigate some of the things that we're happening. We're all in the same boat, you know. So don't believe that if it's leaking in the front of the boat and we in the back is not going to be impacted. And all we're saying is, let's build back better, stronger together.
Well, speaking of building back and financing, one of the things that the Prime Minister had to say during the conference was, and I'm paraphrasing here, the double standard as it relates to small island states being able to access what he termed as climate financing, because they have one set of rules for one set of nations and another set of rules for the smaller nations. So here's what he had to say with regard to that.
We are well aware that going into COP27, work is underway to advance the implementation of a San Diego network on loss and damage, along with the establishment of a loss and damage facility. These are important tools to support our countries. However, we also need to ensure that risk or insurance facilities are also in the toolbox of solutions to help our people. Access to climate finance should not be unclear or cumbersome, and the application of per capita or overseas development assistance eligibility should not be taken as the main consideration for offering climate finance. If so, this means that many Caribbean states will be frozen out from the start. Let us work together to advance the use of a multi-dimensional vulnerability index to reflect the true needs of small island developing states, and work to persuade donors and partners to ensure that all SIDS are eligible for access to bilateral climate financing.
Okay, I'm not sure what's happening with their feeds, but both C. Allen and Joe have dropped off the stream, so hopefully they'll be able to come back on pretty soon. Before I go to a break, with regard to this point of financing, I want to read a comment from one of our Facebook viewers, and hopefully that'll give C. Allen and Joe time to get back on the stream. Allison G. Butler says, I think that these climate changes, which bring financial challenges, clearly shows and gives opportunities for the need the government to cut all the red tape restrictions on Bahamian investors like myself, who God have blessed financially, who can give all the financial assistance that is needed. Okay, gentlemen, we have to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side of the break, I want us to talk a little bit about financing. And then we're going to hear more so from the Attorney General Ryan Pinder, who's going to be focusing on how we can all contribute to lessening the impacts of climate change. He's going to talk about climate change, the debt load that our nation is carrying, all of that and more. So let's take this break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the debt load and financing. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
the islands of the Bahamas. Fly away.
Every journey starts with the first step, and mine starts here. I believed in Tokyo, the belief that I could be, we could be the best. We are drenched in Bahamian pride, no matter where we go. In 5 years, Alive built the Bahamas' best network, delivering faster speeds and stronger connections to all 700 islands and keys. I am proud to be Director of Speed and Connection. Never stop dreaming and never stop believing.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paint, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blasted love.
Welcome to Chippy's Cultural Experience. Coming soon, Chippy's Cultural Entertainment, building on a Bahamian legacy. Welcome to Boston Square. Come experience our islands. Come experience our history. Come and experience our culture. Experience what it is to be truly Bahamian. You're invited. Yeah, man.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with C. Alan Johnson and Joseph Darville, and we are talking about the conference of the heads of the region as it relates to forming a regional voice, a regional bloc to carry the message to COP27 about the impact of climate change on small, low-lying states like ours. The telephone numbers to call if you have a question, 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and our WhatsApp line, 8010271. Now remember, the WhatsApp line is not for you to call, but to send us a text message, because I can't take calls on the WhatsApp line. So it's all about sending us a text message if you wish. Okay, so prior to the break, we started talking about funding, financial input. Let's go to Joe. Joe raising his hand, so he's anxious to talk.
I hate to contradict my honorable Prime Minister about the burden of the debt. We have had a burden of debt long time ago. It's only in recent times that the burden has been exacerbated by Dorian and a couple of the recent storms. But our debt burden was from long time ago. And I would say, and I stand to be contradicted, that it has been significantly burdensome because of the lack of discretion in spending and the lack of discretion in borrowing. The fact is that we do not need to borrow all that we are borrowing. The fact is that 99% of our money in this country, our resources financially, 99% is held by 1% of the population. And that is a very inordinate state to be in. We are still enslaved in this country. It is the poor people who make $300 a week or less paying the same amount of taxes as do the people who probably make multiple millions of dollars. And so and this is the type of message we got to send abroad. And this is only one point, and I'm sure C. Alan Johnson will mention the others. You already mentioned the cruise ships and how they're polluting our water, even though we still classify as having the clearest ocean and the air on the planet. The fact is we are not perfectly free from carbon footprint. But when it comes to the money, we have to change the whole system of taxation. It's inordinate, it's enslavement, it's a continuation of black people enslaved mainly, because the wealth of the country is owned by a handful of blacks and the majority of whites in the country. All of the significant areas in the islands are actually owned by those who once ruled the Bahamas, and they were able to access all of this crown land in higher areas. You look at New Providence, for example. I might be digressing, but all of this is a package. And so you cannot go to the world and say, you know, okay, we got to borrow a hell of a lot of money because we are impacted by climate change. We got to look at home first and try and get some of that money, because listen, during pandemic and during the COVID rather, and during this post-Dorian, 47%. And I'm glad that the minister of my good friend, old friend, Fred Mitchell, said that 46% of our population was living at or below poverty level. When we have billions of dollars in central bank and abroad, and therefore we have to look at that and send a clear message to the world that, hey, you know, we are accumulating billions of dollars in this country, but it's not percolating out to the ordinary people who could be kind of sufficient. And look at what's happening.
Wait, Joe, we have a call on the line. Okay, so I don't want to miss this call. Caller, welcome to GP.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I want to agree with Mr. Darville about cruise lines coming to the Bahamas, and the money doesn't stay here. My main concern, what you were talking about a moment ago, is water and our environment, and not damaging it for the future children of the Bahamas. The carnival site on Grand Bahama is well known that will destroy one of our largest water tables on Grand Bahama. Nobody says nothing about it. The project is still continuing on, and we're once again going to be interrupting our water table on Grand Bahama for the almighty dollar. I don't care how many millions of people they're going to bring to the Bahamas. All it's going to do is pay taxes to the government, but it's going to endanger our environment. It's going to kill one of the water table lenses that we have left in Grand Bahama after Dorian, and nobody's saying nothing, and it's going to be destroyed, and then that'll be it.
Can I validate what the gentleman is saying? At the opening, the groundbreaking of Carnival Cruise Port, they built a tower there that must have been 60 feet high. See, Alan Johnson, I don't know if you were there, you saw it. I went up top of that and I looked to the right, to the west, I looked to the east. As far as you can see, all the way out to the coastal area were wetlands. I even took the principal people from the Port Authority and I brought them out to the edge and I had a picture taken with them. I said, look at all of the wetlands. I said, how in God's name are you going to build a cruise port there on top of wetlands? You know something? People have been bringing tales to me about the destruction of the mangroves there, and I am so sickened by it. I don't even want to go there to look at it, because they have been sanctioned by the government. They have been sanctioned by the Port Authority, the Grand Bahama Development Company, to do this to our environment. What is represent? I've even said to one person who came, I said, if you go there regularly, and if you see, because right now this is the right time for the propagules from the red mangoes to be harvested, I said, please, if you see any propagules there, please rescue them for us so we can plant them in the Dover Sound area with 22,000 acres of mangroves were destroyed. But I want to say this before I get, you know something, all of the environment work, most of it we're doing in this country, we have been funded by foreign entities. Why can't the governments of where the powers of the president come and say, well, here, say the base here, Waterkeeper Bahamas, or here, the Casuarina McKinney, here is $1 million. We want you to enter into a program of teaching all of our children across the nation about the necessity. 99% of the Bahamians don't even know what a mangrove is. Even people who went to Parliament don't know. I had to give them information to take to Parliament. in order for them to elucidate actually what were the mangroves. We have 4 types in them, what each one does, and why is it we're concentrated on the red mangroves. All of those particular bits of information, we have it. You know, consult us. We don't even need to be paid, but use our expertise. And gentlemen, you're so right. We got so much to do at home. And even with what C. Alan Johnson done, the destruction that's been done by Bahama Rock, and then they wanted to go across the road to go into the 8 Mile Rock area to destroy that significant thousands of acres of wetlands. No, man. And you know something? They have literally run out of area to dredge. It was an excuse that they were expanding the harbor. And who gives them permission? The Port Authority or our government? That now, because they didn't get permission, because we revolted against it from crossing the road going to 8 Mile Rock to go into wetlands, now they are digging deeper into our substrate, into our seabed, which communicates all the way out to the cave areas in East Grand Bahama. So that's the type of things that we have to look at. We know it, we see it every day, and we revolt against it and we make excuse. In fact, every chance I get, I interrupt the big highfalutin people guarding the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, and I go to him and I tell him these things that have to be done. And recently, when he was down in Grand Bahama for the opening of the Museum, I bullied myself through it, and he was there looking at this incredible necklace that was worn by a horse hundreds of years ago. And I said, Mr. Prime Minister, you see the beauty coming from this ocean? Please, for God's sake, make a dictum that there will never be oil drilling in the archipelagic nation of the Bahamas. I'm not afraid to approach him. You know, they can't stop me. That's my Prime Minister. Somebody say, but Joe, you're too bully, man. How you could do that? Of course, his security guards. No, I excused myself. I said, I want to speak to my Prime Minister. And he accommodates me. He listens. He called me Brother Darville. But you know something? I have a much better relationship with his wife, Madam Davis, because she is environmentalist at heart, and I just love that. She opened our Mangromania, planted some propagules and so forth. So she is going to be our advocate. And what I can get across to the PM, I'm going to get across to her, and she can work on her husband for me.
All right.
Okay, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle, a couple of points on that. Let me go first back to Bahama Rock. Bahama Rock went into the Hawksbill Creek and destroyed the mangroves there, and they're doing it every single day. They'd have destroyed the water table. We have a combination of hurricane that if you come to Grand Bahama, we have what is called ghost forests that has been developed. In fact, in the United States, what Bahama Rock and others have done would put people in prison.
Exactly.
Let me say to you what the CEO of Bahama Rock said to me when I asked him almost 20 years ago, why are you destroying the environment? And what are we to do about it? This video is on YouTube. He says to me, I want you, Mr. C. Alan Johnson, your advocacy to show the world what they should never, ever allow to be done. This was before he went deeper and wider. He said to me, it's on YouTube. He had the audacity to say to me, use it as a lesson to show the world what not to allow to happen. This is a man who say, when I finish destroying this environment, it'll be a teachable moment for the rest of the world.
Wow.
Now let's go to the cruise port. The cruise port haven't started their major damages yet. They're digging a canal through there, which will absolutely destroy the water table. And it will affect the complete marshland. It will affect the mangroves. They're also preparing a harbor to put 2 of the world's largest cruise ship in the world in Peterson Key National Park. This is a national park. Exactly. These people are going to be going in and digging a canal, a mile or what longer as a buffer to keep Bahamians from selling to tourists. Those 7 million tourists, they say they can bring whatever amount of tourists. They're digging a moat. This is not a purpose canal. This is a moat they're digging to protect their 1 mile or whatever amount of beachfront property they have. They're trying to create a separated from their natives. That's why when they say you're going to have jobs just over broke suckers in a just over broke environment, it's humorous. They're bragging about what they're going to preserve. They're going to preserve 90 acres. They don't tell you about the hundreds of acres that will be destroyed. See, it isn't what you claim it that you will preserve. They're doing the same thing with Disney inside of Eleuthera. Yeah. They like to tell us how much they will be preserving. They don't tell us what they're starting with. If you start with 1,000 acres and you said, and we will preserve 125 acres, then you're destroying 875. That's already there, and these are carbon credits. So these practices, this is where the sincerity of us as a nation, as one of the most impacted as a small island development state, has to be exemplified. We still have oil drilling as an option while running around to the world saying we can disappear in 20 years. We're still promoting cutting through mangroves, destroying coral reefs, destroying copuses, while screaming, "Y'all are killing us." It's like it's like, you remember, it's like we're tightening the rope around our neck, standing on a chair, screaming that you're going to shoot us, but at the same time we're tipping the chair. They're simply laughing, saying, "Well, you seem to be able to kill yourself." So this is where, before we do, the duplicity. See, this is why we have to have a real conversation in regards to how is it we demand that they stop using these type of fuel while we importing $500 million of it into the country. No one answered these are just one more point. We import thousands of gallons of motor oil in the country that none has ever left. If motor oil doesn't disappear, where did it go? Where does the radiator fluid go? Where does the transmission fluid go? See, we just can't scream to the world because they have data analysts too. And if we want to be taken seriously, then we should be advocating for way past net zero. We should be demanding what Eden Mary says, absolute zero, because for the rest of the world, they have an option. Ours is dead. So we don't need just, we don't need to give you credit. When we start talking about these carbon credits that you say, Michelle, we are giving people consent to continue polluting as long as they pay us to continue to pollute, when every drop of pollution comes to us, sees our existence. So it's madness, the political position we are taking. This is, with all due respect, I admire the Prime Minister's advocacy. He's taking a political position, not a national position. A political position says, look what I'm doing. I'm sounding good. I'm looking good around the world. A national position is, I'm going to save the lives and the future of the Bahamas. That's what I want to see. I want to see the plan. I want to see the strategy.
I want to play a clip from an interview that Ryan Pinder did, talking about what the Bahamas' point of view is as it relates to. This is clip number 4. I'll click it. As it relates to this whole question of climate change. Take a listen to this, and then I want to get your reaction.
We look to create a climate change economy in the country, where the country is benefiting off its natural resources that are by nature helping the larger industrial countries and the globe by absorbing emissions and absorbing carbon within our natural environment, primarily seagrasses and mangroves, but within our natural environment. And you would know we're going up on our first year in office now next month, and it was a very aggressive agenda by the Prime Minister, and we would have passed 2 pieces of legislation to support the carbon credit regime. That would be the initial one would have been the carbon credit and climate change bill, which set out the regime for carbon credits and some commitments on climate change and emissions by the country. And then we followed that up with a carbon credit trading bill, which would establish a carbon credit exchange, the first in this hemisphere. And so we're advancing that. We have signed an agreement with a management company to help us monetize our carbon credits. Okay. That's Carbon Management Limited, supported by Beneath the Waves, which is a not-for-profit research institute that's been in the Bahamas for more than 10 years. And we are in discussions with a number of high-profile parties in the capital markets and exchange business to set up the first regional carbon credit exchange. We look to make meaningful progress on that by COP27. We look to have the exchange, the framework in place with strategic partners. And we look to be able to be in a position shortly thereafter to start maybe pre-selling some of our carbon credits. The first batch of carbon credit research is going to be verified within the next 2 weeks. We're sending it to the verification company. That takes a couple months for them to verify and so it's rather technical. But we're moving quickly on it, and we look to have this be an arm of our climate resiliency going forward. We have to do a number of things. We have to, you would have heard the Prime Minister speak today in the opening about the importance of our biodiversity and our living lands, he termed it, and that's a term coming out of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, where our biodiversity is important and actually absorbs carbon itself and helps with the climate change. And the Bahamas has always been a leader in that. We protect sharks, we protect turtles, we have some of the largest marine protected areas in the world, and we are a world leader in living lands preservation and preserving our biodiversity. And all of this comes together to help provide a framework to combat climate change. Certainly small countries like the Bahamas in the region are punching above their belt in this regard, and we hope to give some lessons to the larger countries on how to do it.
Okay, gentlemen, let's hear from you. Is what he just described enough, or do we go back to the point that C. Allen has been trying to make, that you are saying that with all that you're doing, you're paying people to continue to do the damage that is within itself causing us the problem? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, C. Allen, I'd like to underline what he said, because the fact is, this is a contradiction that we're sending abroad. And maybe that is why environmentalists like myself and Jimmy and Casuarina McKinney, we are not invited to the table often enough, because we know what is happening at the ground level. I mean, it's magnificent to talk about this significant thing, about the fact that we could actually begin trading carbon credits when we haven't even yet taught our people from whence come those credits. They don't even know, parliamentarians don't even know where there's sequestration under the mangroves or even the trees, even the forests in our country. Every tree has a carbon sink. And if we keep destroying our forests, etc., burning them, allowing them to be burned down, and allowing them to be bulldozed down, then we're sending a contradiction to the world. And, if I were in the United Kingdom or in Europe someplace, and I had the knowledge of what is happening to our environment here, I would say, well, go to hell. You got to work at home first. Why are you allowing Carnival to destroy thousands of acres of prime mangroves and swamps, which are actually centered in fresh water? So you impinge them, you impinge the freshwater lens in Grand Bahama and elsewhere. So that's what I'm saying. We need to be concise and teach our people, and don't just hand someone the permission to go and do whatever they like to bastardize our environment, because they could give us a couple of dollars. So, I want to throw that into the fire today.
Now, C. Allen, hold on, C. Allen. Keep in mind, we have a caller waiting on the line, so maybe we should take the caller first, or you want to make it real quick?
Either one. You go to the caller first, get him off the line. I can remember.
All right, caller, welcome to GPS.
Michelle, JT, I'm only calling back because what I heard the Attorney General say, so I want to ask your two guests to please, if they don't mind, commenting on this one question I asked earlier. Why would our country want to allow 5,000 or 100,000 acres in Andros to be mined if we're talking about preserving our forests for sequestering of carbon, the carbon emissions? Could somebody please deal with that big elephant in the room?
I can let them answer, right? But hold on. I can put it in a nutshell for you, JT. But I can let them explain it.
Thanks. I want them run scared,
Thanks for calling. Let me let them answer. But real quick, in a nutshell, money talks. But anyhow,
but again, that's the money in somebody else's pocket. Here's the point, and JT's correct. We should have a moratorium right now. Here we are in the middle of one of the most important conversations of the century with global leaders. We should have a moratorium on all mining in the Bahamas. What is 6 months, 1 year, 2 years going to do for us? All mining, all drilling, day one, right now, say it stops, including the carnival going into the mangrove into the protected area. Imagine the Attorney General is bragging about the.
Oh, it looks like C. Allen is having challenges with his internet connection. All right, Joe, you want to?
Well, let me comment. And of course, when you said you summed up the money talks, and the money actually is already there in the hands of the people, the principal people who want to do this in Andros, and that should be stopped immediately. Andros is one of the incredible fountains of fresh water, and any type of aggregate digging up in that area, that is going to impact the freshwater lands. And so that should be stopped in its tracks. There is no way that we can justify that morally. We cannot send a message across to first world countries and say, oh yeah, and at the same time, what they're doing, they're destroying, carbon sequestering at the same time. And we're going to ask to be paid for our carbon credits, but at the same time, we're destroying hundreds of thousands of credits by digging into our substrate. No, that is absolutely ridiculous. And I hope the government puts an end to it. But the fact is, I'm going to say this, and I can be contradicted. But the fact is, no matter what government is in power at any time, the oligarchy of this country monitors the indications all along, and they support whichever government they feel is going to go down their route. And particularly when it comes to corporate taxation and income tax, they will bastardize this country forever unless the government has the cojones to actually pass a law that everyone has to pay equitable taxation depending on their income and investments in the country. We are still enslaved. You're talking about next year, 50 years of independence? Come on, man. That's all they say. It took the Israelites 40 years to cross the desert. They could have been done it in less than 40 days. But all of that enslaved mentality had to die out. Even the great Moses didn't get to the promised land. We have been, the shackles have dropped of us 200 or more years ago. And I can still hear them dangling around our people because we are still enslaved by the oligarchy in this country. And until we can have sensible people who are going to govern this country without favor, we will be in the same mess 50 years from now as we are going into celebrating so-called independence. And I was at the Griffith Park on that first one, independence. I led 10,000 more students there, and the pride that I have, I thought sure that we are going to be in glory land, and we no longer be slaves, but we are still enslaved.
All right, I'm going to let C. Allen pick up where he left off. But I just want to say this. Hold on, C. Allen.
One second, finish passing over. Let me finish this. The Attorney General was talking about the marine protected area, while destroying the marine protected area with the Disney and Elutra and the Carnival here on Grand Bahama. If we take another model that COVID present to us, we could build 20,000 room nights on Grand Bahama and have a whole new tourism model that we don't need the Kentucky Fried Chicken tourist model that we'll get from destroying our environment. But the point is, so we should have a moratorium, including stopping the carnival deal, because we're going to destroy the water table. We're going to destroy cascading effect, thousands of acres. I don't care if there's any type of negative impact. It will change it. While these things that's going to impact will actually are carbon absorbers. Going back to what he said about Andros, mining aragonite. For case what people don't know, they want very particular aragonite on land. We have billions of tons of aragonite we could vacuum from the ocean floor. Aragonite is a carbon sequestering product. Look at the formula. It's carbon. It keeps billions of tons of carbon that we produce. Can't explain the billions of tons of carbon that's produced that is not part of the government structure. Let me tell you the problem with what the government is doing. What you're seeing is a prostitute on the corner who's normally getting cash. Her John has died, and she's looking for new forms of revenue. That's our government right now. Because this carbon credit is not being talked about. What are we going to be used to solve our problem? This is going into the slush fund, the consolidated fund, to make up for the shortfalls that government has having from lack of development of this country. So we will now have carbon credits that we're going to sell and carbon offset. In fact, when we actually begin to examine this bill, the NGOs in this country, if we are serious about carbon credits and carbon offset, they can finance themselves by being able to be included in a regime of developing carbon credits and carbon offset. But what the government did, took its greedy self, and in that bill gave the sovereign 100% ownership of all carbon credits or offsets produced in this country against the Constitution. In violation of the Constitution, they own it no matter who produces it. That's something that needs to be challenged. But the point is, we have a government that is putting on its dress. This prostitute is putting on this pretty dress and telling the people, ignore all the things I'm doing to endanger your life with the STDs and everything else, with the oil and the drilling and all these other different things. Give me some money. We need a sensible conversation concerning this. And something Joe Darville spoke about, the revenue. He says the money, the millions and billions made. No, let me correct Joe Darville on that. The figure coming out of the World Trade Organization is $3 trillion of economic activity happens in this country per year that we do not tax. Okay, that's commerce. $3 trillion of global commerce happen through our air, through our waterways, or in our country that we get no taxes from. None, not even VAT. In fact, the previous administration, when the VAT captured Equinox for hundreds of millions of dollars, when they came in, they instead of saying, okay, from going forward you don't pay no VAT on it, they forgave all the previous VAT that they didn't pay, to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars, while they tax us by increasing it by 5%. So we have some major issues. We have Equinox that have done damage to the tunes of billions of dollars that will probably take decades to remedy, and we are allowing them to almost leave this country by selling their place without really looking at the impact they have done to the water table, to the mangroves, to the air, to the whole environment in East Grand Bahama, compounded now by going and destroying Peterson Key protected area, destroying the mangroves on land on Grand Bahama and the seabed by bringing this ship in. We have no environmental laws to do anything. We don't have the technology to even monitor if they're sitting there in the park, the impact they will have, because first of all, Grand Bahama cannot, we don't have in part of their design to provide land power, shore power to them. So that means while they're sitting there with their engines running, they will be producing the equivalent of 1 million cars per day. 1 million cars into our atmosphere, sulfur, all of these things in our environment, so we could sell foreigners trinkets. See, we're going to tell them, come off the environment. You know what our promotion is going to be? Come see the pristine environment of the Bahamas before we destroy it. So, you know what it is, right? Let me ask you a question. If the Prime Minister today says that we are having this murder in the Bahamas, and we believe that guns should not be in the Bahamas, but we're going to legalize bullets. That's what they're doing. They're saying we're against guns, but you could now sell bullets. Well, what you selling bullets for? That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing with this environment, with the way we are going about this carbon offset. Instead of having an absolute zero, developing an aquamarine economy or something of that sort, we are simply saying we're trying to find the best way for you to buy ammunition to kill us. That's what it is. And so, yes, we can utilize it that you owe us this because we have been cleaning up, and we're going to increase by reducing the carbon footprint by getting behemoths to individually to reduce their carbon footprint. So collectively, we'll all be contributing. We're going to get businesses. We're going to document it. The government of the Bahamas has no strategy for carbon credits. And these billion-dollar companies, in case you don't know, BP is the one who came up with the definition of carbon offsets. Remember the oil spill in America? They came up and they've spent $200 million in the first few years marketing the concept of giving us permission to continue polluting if we pay you something. See, we have to understand the root of these things. We are facing existential threat to our very existence. So if we're going to lead the world, let's lead the world towards absolute zero and have our argument and really be in a position through our argument, not through our duplicity, because they have their million-dollar lawyers watching us to see what their real liability is. And you can't go to the people and say, well, I'm going to sue Smith & Wesson for the gun that I used to shoot myself in the head because I bought the bullets from Bentley. It's pure garbage.
We got to take a break. I'll play the break. Jason, because I did upload it. Y'all are making some very strong points. It's like the parent who tells the child, do what I say, not what what you see me do. Do what I, this is interesting. All right.
Can I make one simple statement before I go? I would like to triple underscore everything C. Alan Johnson has just said. That is the predicament we're in. Plain and simple.
All right. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical, Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. We're talking about this regional conference that's been being held here the past few days, looking at the whole question of climate change and how we can speak as one voice as the leaders of the world together in Egypt later this year for COP27. I want to read a comment from one of our Facebook viewers, and then I'm going to play a clip from Ryan Pinder, and then I'm going to have you guys respond. So Luann is saying, I can appreciate what PM Davis is saying to the bigger, more industrialized countries. However, what can we, the Bahamas, do to show them that we are serious about climate change and sea level rise? We're importing billions of dollars of food and materials from them every year. These bigger countries are practically sustaining us. Are we not, as a country, perpetuating the problem as well? What is our part in all this? I see other countries putting clean energy laws. Well, Luann, the message was too long. So here's a clip now from that same interview that Ryan Pinder did, talking about how we can all contribute to minimizing the footprint, our footprint, as it relates to climate change. And I want you gentlemen to listen to this, and then we're going to respond on the back end to ask the question that we started on prior to the break about what appears to be a duplicitous approach to this problem. Take a listen to this.
Certainly the movement towards renewable energy is important, even at the smallest levels. And so, moving towards solar, for those who are able, that's an important characteristic. I have solar on my house that effectively takes my house off the grid during the daytime and back on the grid at night. That helps with the consumption of fossil fuels. And those are important aspects to consider. You may not need your air conditioning on at 72 degrees. 74 degrees may be okay. And that actually helps a lot. With the fossil fuel burn.
Attorney General, it's hot outside, though.
I know it's hot outside. We're looking at cleaner energy as well for the country. We're exploring LNG, which will take us off of that heavy fuel that emits all of the emissions and the carbon and the smoke. Many people would have heard for a number of years the discussion about greenhouse gases and why we're getting warmer because of what greenhouse gases are is the burning of fuel and hydrocarbons.
Right.
And so if we can minimize that consumption, that goes a long way in contributing to the climate change initiative from the Bahamas point of view. Being a little bit more sensitive to your biodiversity, your marine wildlife. Those are all important characteristics that will catapult the Bahamas as a world leader to combat climate change.
I see C. Allen smiling, a little sly smile there.
But I think both C. Allen and I have already responded to everything that he just said. I mean, we've said the contradiction even before he put something out there. And the fact is that if you have all the resources necessary, you could put solar panels on your house. But poor people in Bahamas, they don't have it. And so first of all, if we're going to get let's say just for the sake of speaking, let's say that we have enough carbon credits we could sell. Let's say $1 billion worth in the next 5 years. I would say half of that should be distributed for climate change resilience in the individual homes. But my feeling is that it's still going to go into the pockets of those who don't need it. Plain and simple.
All right, C. Allen. Wait, you're muted. Go unmute yourself.
Joe Darville is absolutely correct. If we actually examine, this is why we have no strategy. This is a talking point. These guys are actually believe that they can blow smoke and these people won't recognize it, what it is. Let's use an example. What the Attorney General says, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes and I'm going to now start vaping. And what he means by that? LNG is a hydrocarbon. It's just a clean, they say it burns cleaner. So they said, the smoke comes say, oh, don't worry, you won't see the smoke because I'll just be vaping. See, madness. See, what happens is when you talk about consumption, it'll take less than the monies that we intend to get from one distribution. They said 600 million to solarize the entire Bahamas if done correctly. Here's what happens. You must first reduce consumption before you put in generation. So it costs $1 million a megawatt. So if you have 300 megawatts needed for Nassau, $300 million. They like to scream to you that we don't have the land mass. Well, solar over water, which is all of South Beach, right, gives you 25% more efficiency. But that's after you reduce the fact that the houses are now LED, ACs are now 32 SER, water heaters are all gone, which eliminates 1/3 of the consumption for Grand Bahama and for the outer islands. You have LED lighting. Your appliances are now changed. All of these different things, and guess what? Government can actually fund these because by reducing our carbon footprint, they said they'll be selling those carbon credits we now generate by not using our contribution to the atmosphere. They could give it back to us in the form of a loan, and then when they collect the carbon credits, pay it off. See, we don't have a strategy for the Bahamas, for 400,000 people, 125,000 homes. There's no strategy. This is about collecting money to put in the treasury to show the deficiencies of development. Here's the problem. The 21st century green, blue ocean, which we call an aquamarine economy and include the digital and everything else, requires democratization of the economy, because now people will be less dependent on the consumerism type environment we have created, which disrupts the money generation for the very few. So what they do is this: we're going to continue have you consuming at the same level, and we're going to have our friend where you could buy your own solar system because you reduce consumption you could buy your own solar system for $5,000, we'll finance it. We want you to continue consuming, continue burning, and we'll have our friend give us a $5 million solar system for at least $15 million because they're our friend. And then they say we have solar, nobody can tell you what it's going to reduce. See, listen to me. All you have to do is tell the Attorney General or the Prime Minister, beyond the talk, show us the walk. Show us the printed strategy. This is where Warren Miller, the most important minister in the government, even superior to the Prime Minister, in action, cannot be heard from. He's supposed to be developing the policy positions for government to be following. And so this is why I say to you, I admire the Prime Minister in his self-marketing and self-promotion. But if I'm sitting in Exxon, if I'm sitting in the United States or China or somewhere, and we're going to say, who is this guy making all the noise? Give me a profile on him. Give me a profile on his country. And then they can say, oh, well, for a minute there, I thought he had a weapon. He only got talk. Look,
wow.
We must show in an actual strategy. You really believe that the G20 nations are sitting around and not going to examine every one of the SIDS to see what we're actually doing, to see the impact? And this would be say, well, I only got a 16-ounce cup, so we only producing 16 ounces based on our size, and you guys are producing a gallon. And they can say, scale up to where you are in the United States, and you're producing the same amount of carbon as we are based on population. See, this is where our hypocrisy must end. Okay? See, they have analysts, they know this game. They've been making promises of funding for 20 years that haven't got a dime yet. Carbon emissions have accelerated since COP26. We have not, listen to me, if we were to do everything they say at COP26, we couldn't meet the 2-degree goal. They say 1.5 degrees, be gone. But if they do everything that they say and more, if they double what they say they will do in at COP26, we couldn't meet the 2%, the 2 degrees. So that means what? We going. So we have to have a strategy. That's what I said. So that means we have the strategy, like I talked about earlier. We have to have a strategy to build, to survive what inevitably will be the giants with the stick playing games with us.
Okay, I want to play a quick clip. And this again is the Attorney General from that interview, because he is suggesting that, in spite of what all y'all just had to say, he is suggesting that now is the perfect time for us to go to the big fellas with the big sticks with this message, because they too are now starting to feel the impacts. Listen to this clip, and it's very short, and I'm going to get you guys to respond before we wrap this thing up. Listen. Oh, my producer's not at his desk. Where did he go? I have a feeling if I play the clip, I think he has support closed and you won't be able to hear it. Let me test it. Wow.
We're very fortunate to have such a strong and passionate leader as the Prime Minister in this country, and he's respected not only within the region but the world over. And I think that we come and we approach it in a manner that is not necessarily adversarial, but it is an issue that the world and all countries around the world are experiencing. I mean, we look in France right now. France is having violent fires due to the increase in temperatures. You would have looked at the news today. China has shut down an entire industrial city, all of their manufacturing plants, because of the high temperatures. It was some 104 degrees in China. And so this is a worldwide impact. And this is now affecting the major economies of the world. We're the most vulnerable, but they're getting the effects now, and they're living the effects now. So they're feeling the pain that we have felt with climate change. And I think that this is a great opportunity at COP27 to demand action, not promises, to demand implementation and not commitments.
Your response, gentlemen?
Yeah, just quickly from me before Seattle Johnson comes on. That's painting a very rosy political approach. But nationally, we ain't there at all. So teach our people first and begin to do those things that Seattle and Johnson and I have been deliberating all afternoon. Show us what you're doing locally at home, education-wise and environmental-wise. Go around and make sure that everything is copacetic. Check on what is going to happen to that one remaining coral reef right off from the Carnival section going towards Peterson Key. The only surviving coral reef in that area. Can you imagine what the development is going to do? All of the silt from the dredging, etc. Who is going to monitor that? And what kind of contradiction is that going to send abroad? So we got to get out of this, not just a political gimmick, but a national conscientious effort. That's what I have to say.
And I must concur with Joe Darville. Unless all of us are involved in this, not just generation, but future generations, we must indoctrinate in this. I mean, literally, this is their very survival, their very existence as Bahamians. We need to start teaching from birth. We should be at the hospital and saying, here's your brochure. When you're old enough to read, have your parents read this to you. That's how important it is. So, because what happens is, in 20 years, this must become a way of life for them. You know how they say their names? They should be able to know about the environment, because our very existence depends on the environment. Yes, they are feeling the impact of climate change. They just start feeling it. We've been feeling it for decades, because when the Prime Minister goes to 2015, the Prime Minister must have forgotten that in 2004, the twin hurricanes that hit us was a result of global warming and climate change then also. So Grand Bahama can take them back another 30 years on this whole aspect of the impact. But what does it do for us with this money that you're going to put in the consolidated fund? What does it do for building resilience? What does it do for education and empowerment for individuals to act? Is all that $6 million you can collect? Would there be $100 million that the local NGOs and environmentalists can tap into and begin to do the things that government itself has not done for 30 years? Are we going to be sitting at the table? See, these are the conversations we have to have. But
the government is hold on, Ciala. The government is arguing that one of the reasons why they can't do those things is because 50% of the Bahamas debt comes from climate change fallout. And so
I said, prove it.
No,
prove it. See, you can't tell me that $6 billion for our debt. No, see, notice what he said. It's if you pay to the exact wording, it's a linguistic contortionist statement. What I'm saying to you is, we have done nothing, even when we borrowed money, to build resilience in this country. Not one thing. Show me the one thing we have done. See, those people that lent us the money, they know what they lent us the money for, you know. They know where the money going to be spent. It makes us feel good. But I'm simply saying to you is, when you talk to these people, in the same way I could go in front of my computer and pull up data, there are people who's going to supposedly give us this money. They're not going to give us the money to waste, you know. That's why they're not going to take it seriously.
Okay.
They might give us a little bit of money to appease us. Say, keep those Negroes busy, give them a couple of dollars to balance their budget, but no resilience. We'll give them some land in Idaho and declare a plantation called the Nation of the Bahamas.
Okay, we have only 3 minutes left in the show, but I want to read a part of this comment from one of our Facebook viewers, Perline. The government is not listening. Question to you. What must we do if the government is not listening? I got 30 seconds, gentlemen, because I only got 2 minutes left and I got to close out the show. Joe, let's start.
Okay, very quickly. Like I said in COP20 when I was in Paris, we had hundreds and thousands of young people demonstrating against all of the nations and against all of the old people because they have allowed this country to literally burn. And I think we need to have that tsunami of young people to say, what are you doing to our country? We have to live here. Joe Darville will be gone. C. Alan Johnson will be gone. Even Michelle may be gone. But the fact is, what's going to happen to us? To show us concretely what you're doing to correct the mess that we have been put in, not just by foreign entities, but by our own negligence.
All right.
Now, I said them, get involved. Join Waterkeepers, join Save the Bays, join Alliance for Change as myself. Let your voice be heard. Encourage us, support us financially, anything otherwise, and get involved with your MP and said, put those people that we heard today and their groups at the table so that we can have a comprehensive involvement and then show us your blueprint to change the Bahamas to one of resilience and one of incorporating vehemence into the strategy beyond talk.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, to both of you for being a part of the show today. I really appreciate it. I think we got a lot of ground covered. And hopefully, Perline, they are listening. Hopefully, all we can do is hope and keep our fingers crossed. And like C. Alan said, get involved. That is my time, folks. I love you both. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Tomorrow is where time just go. Tomorrow could be Friday already. Open line tomorrow. We're going to have some fun talking about the week that was. Until then.
Take care, you all. Love you all. God bless.
Love you, Bahamas.